Bueno, vamos a pasar al siguiente expositor, a Fotis Fitsilis, que es un amigo, aprovecho para saludarlo. Cuenta un poco, tiene formación académica en Derecho, en Economía e Ingeniería, en esos tres campos. Tiene antecedentes en una amplia gama de temas como telecomunicaciones y logística, hasta administración y gobierno. Después de una larga trayectoria como ingeniero investigador en Alemania, trabajó como asesor especial en negocios e industria para el Ministerio de Desarrollo de Grecia. Desde 2007 trabaja para el Parlamento Helénico, inicialmente como asesor científico del presidente y posteriormente como jefe del Departamento de Documentación y Supervisión dentro de la Oficina de Servicios Científicos. Es profesor de la Escuela Nacional de Administración Pública y Gobierno Local en Atenas y ha sido profesor visitante de la Universidad Complutense de Madrid en España, donde ha disertado sobre procedimientos parlamentarios y el proceso de redacción de leyes. Está certificado en Prince 2 y en 2017 fundó el equipo helénico OCR, una iniciativa de crowdsourcing para el procedimiento y análisis de datos parlamentarios. Un placer tenerte aquí, Fotis. Adelante, por favor.
Thank you very much, Juan. Thank you, Professor Patiño, for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be among a great panel of experts across the world, and even a bigger, I'm very glad also to be speaking to such an extraordinary audience that wants to learn how how different parliaments approach this pandemic. Now, let me start briefly by stating the obvious. The pandemic is not over yet. Now, I repeat that. We're not over yet. This has been implied by the data Andy and Moises have presented. What we have here is rather an equilibrium that has a global equilibrium that has been reached, and nobody knows how this will go on. This is true for the Greek parliament as it is for other parliaments, which means that the data or the response we have now produced locally, regionally, or globally might change. Now, I will be very briefly, hoping that we will have later on more time to develop my thoughts. So I will speak exclusively now regarding the Hellenic Parliament. Okay, on the 25th of February, there was the first response by our government to the pandemic. They have produced an executive order regulating several issues around how to handle the pandemic in the public sector and the private sector and in society at large. Now, why is this important? It is important because an executive order does not have to pass through the parliament immediately. This relies on an article of our constitution, which says that the government has 40 days after issuing such an executive order to pass it through the parliament. So it is an immediate response. And it has been passed through the parliament on the 2nd of April. Nevertheless, a couple of weeks after that, the parliament as such responded. And we have a body in the parliament, a very high level body. It's called the Conference of Parliamentary Chairmen. So these are the presidents of the different bodies, around 21, 22, 23 members. And they have a very broad jurisdiction around what's going on in the parliament. This relies on our standing orders of the parliament. And what they did, they started taking some measures regarding parliamentary procedure. How they operate this body is they rely on the Article 13-14 of our standing orders, which are by the way online. What they did is they started taking some measures on how to structure debate but also on how the personnel or the MPs and the parliamentary groups have to react to this pandemic. Now, I separated it, this response into dimensions, let's say the general measures and the digital measures, more specialized measures. The first thing we did is to adjust parliamentary work to social distancing. What this means is that we took several measures to make sure that people cannot come very close to each other. For instance, we have a certain number of personnel. We limited the amount of personnel that has to be present in the parliament and in their working space. Also, we limited the number of MPs that need to be present in meetings, in parliamentary meetings, to conduct parliamentary work. This was very true for plenary. So we had limited presence, and also we limited time. We halved the time that an MP had at his or her disposal to address the parliament. The standing committees, these are the committees that are involved in parliamentary drafting, they continued working with this limited presence. On the other side, special permanent committees, these are, and ad hoc committees, we completely suspended them. And there were a few cases that they did took place rather informally, but that we mostly suspended them. And also we limited parliamentary control to once a week. Normally it's three times a week. Now, let's come to digital transformation. I will be again very brief here because it will come over and over again. And most of the measures were rather straightforward. We used indeed we advanced our teleconferencing facilities. We didn't have any to the plenary hall, so we advanced that also to cover the plenary hall meetings. Also, we had the provision, there was an article in our standing orders saying that we can use teleconferencing for committee meetings. We activated that. Normally we didn't use teleconferencing for committee meetings. We activated that, so they started taking place online. And of course, we advanced and we furthered the electronic submission of parliamentary control means. Very important for parliamentary personnel was the issue that we have opted to use safety personnel only. We have regulations on how many persons for each unit, parliamentary unit, need to be in place when an extraordinary situation happens. And the rest switched to home office through VPN access or normal online access. Very interestingly, scientific service, this is my service, we did not experience any disruption in our operation because we were used to work online and to cooperate online. This was a very interesting thing to experience. So practically we were not disrupted in our operation. And by the way, yes, indeed, we used the pandemic as a starting point to introduce and plan and introduce at a later time new services, new electronic services. And indeed, we can evidence that there is a number of services that it is now in the planning, and we are expecting it to come within the next months or later. Thank you very much, and I will be at your disposal for any questions.
Muchas gracias, Fotis. Muchísimas gracias y muy ajustado en el tiempo, perfecto. Bueno, vamos a pasar a la última de los disertantes europeos.